Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Hope you're all doing good. It's been a minute since I did this, about 6 months to be exact. But it feels good to be back. I even ordered some new equipment. Got this fancy mic off Amazon, which I'm waiting for. So I'm pretty stoked. Do people still even say stoked anymore? I'm not sure, but I'm pretty amped. So Amazon had these mics that I couldn't refuse. I did what, all big time ballers do. I splurged on myself a bit. Actually, I'm not being completely honest here. I didn't really pay for anything. I ended up getting their store card and got like $60 off the purchase. The mic cost like $30, so I think Amazon kind of owes me money. But either way, I'm truly vested now. So shout out to Amazon. I'm gonna kind of forgive y'all about the tornado situation. That's kind of like water under the rug for me for now, at least. I mean, unless y'all delay my package, then we got some serious problems. But anyways, I'm actually a CP now, a certified podcaster. So I'm kind of doing it for you folks. So I kind of hope to build on this. So let's get into it. So this past week, incoming New York City Mayor Eric Adams, he talked about solitary confinement. I hope everyone knows what that is. So solitary, it's when they put you in a cell all by yourself. You're basically alone for a period of time, and that's your punishment. You're kind of segregated from everyone basically, and it's designed as a psychological punishment. You're alone in a confined space. So Eric Adams, he's very much for this, and of course the left is not by any way, You may or may not remember who Eric Adams is. He's the well-known former New York City cop, and in the November elections, he actually beat Curtis Sliwa. Curtis is he was the leader of the Guardian Angels, and you might have seen him on TV. He's the older gentleman with the red beret, which I'm sure most New Yorkers assumed was a MAGA hat. So maybe that's why he lost. I don't know. But anyways, Eric Adams, he overwhelmingly won the mayoral race, and it wasn't much of a surprise, especially running as a Democrat. But what is a surprise is that he seems like he's about justice. And I say that because the progressive softies, they usually, they're catering to criminals. So it's like a breath of fresh air in a way. I mean, for a minute there, I thought as a city, we were all going to be hopeless. I mean, crime got so bad that it took electing a cop to get some law and order. But no disrespect to the police, they're just so hated by BLM and all the progressive and liberal cliques. So I'm actually shocked that a former cop won. But Adams, he had a lot to say after his city council members, sent him letters to change his position on the solitary confinement. And by the way, on a side note, prisoners are put in solitary for being violent or dangerous to others, and it's not like it's some sick torture, It's not like a sick torture that officers and corrections officers and people in the whole, prison system get a thrill. It's nothing like that. That's not what's happening. So Adams, he stood his ground in a press conference. He said, and I quote, "I wore a bulletproof vest for 22 years and protected the people of the city. When you do that, then you have the right to question me," end quote. Now, you can see how this kind of triggered progressives. They can't even handle the fact that hardcore criminals should be locked away. So you can kind of see where I'm going with that, especially those that are violent and are a threat and danger to other inmates and COs. Adams, being a former police officer himself, he seems to kind of know a thing or two about criminals and how the justice system works. So I'm going to have to kind of side with him on this one. And let me just take a minute to address how stupid these people are. We have politicians calling to an end to mass incarceration, like what's her name, Rashida Tlaib. And these people, they don't care about your safety or the safety of your children or the safety of anyone. I mean, why would they? They live in a wealthy, in the wealthy areas, and they have their own security and all that stuff. And meanwhile, what do you have? These are the same people that are against lawful gun ownership. So basically, you can't protect yourself. They just want you to be as vulnerable as possible, and no means to protect yourself while they cry about bringing all these criminals home. The irony here is that they themselves would never want these criminals in their own home or their own neighborhoods, let alone anywhere near them at all. They're all actually pushing for legislation to end prisons. And on paper, that sounds ridiculous. So imagine what that would look like in reality. Then again, these people don't live in reality. So, you can see that their cities are already burning. crime is already skyrocketing and they want to put in more criminals on the streets. So it just doesn't really make sense. But that's where we are now, and quite frankly, I don't get it. Like, the whole argument is that locking someone away by themselves is torture. Well, yeah, like, that's the whole idea of prison. It's for retribution. Like, do people think that they're going on vacation? I highly doubt that. But I mean, was it not torture for people was it not torture for the people that they victimize? Like, if we as a nation are supposed to believe in accountability, then it shouldn't be hard to understand the concept that if you do the crime, then you got to do the time. And if you committed violent crimes, then yes, by every definition of the word, you deserve to be alone and locked up. And if you're committing violent crime behind bars, then maybe you ought to be separated from the rest of the population as well. I mean, it's for the safety of others around you. And the thing here is that I don't see how I'm supposed to feel bad about this. People murder and rape and they get out of jail for good behavior, while in other countries, they're put to death for the same crimes. Literally, depending on the type of crime, you might not even get to live. So I'm kind of a firm believer in Sharia, so how I feel about certain crimes. But, here we are in 2021, almost into 2022, and, American politicians are talking about bringing home killers. I just don't get it. Anyways, let's move on. Speaking of violent criminals, boy, we just can't get enough of them. A congresswoman, was robbed and carjacked at gunpoint in Philly. I'm actually not even mad about it because it was who it happened to. Someone on the left, of course, people who want to take away your right to defend yourself. And she was someone who also was with the leftist mob and wanted to defund the police. The whole defunding the police movement actually kind of exposed people, especially politicians. Now, this isn't the first time something like this happened. A lot of people in political positions who were in favor of defunding the police, they themselves have become victims of what they tried to harbor. We're told that the police were the problem and that money shouldn't go to them, and that we need more social workers and social programs. And what happened with that? Crime is at an all-time high. You look at the looting, the smash and grab, or whatever new politically correct term is being used, because saying looting is apparently racist now. And just look at the murder rate and the homicide numbers in almost every major American city. It's significantly higher than it was 10 or 20 years ago. And why is that? Well, we know why. It's not, it's not what we have been led to believe, like what Jen Psaki said. It's not because of the pandemic. They're going to divert and blame every failed policy on the pandemic. But in reality, it was the policies that have been made, and put in place. Things like bail reform, for example. These leaders are just soft on crime, and there's zero accountability. We're basically telling people that there's absolutely no consequences for their actions. But this is what happens when you turn the cheek. Everyone turns the other cheek until their cheek is the one that's slapped. Or in this case, for the congresswoman, it's carjacked at gunpoint. And I'm not going to feel bad for people who were part of the problem. Like, their lack of support for the police made the police job more difficult than it needed to be. So now, so now they should kind of deal with the outcome. And I'm glad some politicians are facing the same heat. Hopefully this will awaken folks and maybe we can have some law and order in this country. But I really wouldn't bet on that, which actually kind of brings me to my next point. There's been a couple, high profile cases going on right now. And recently the Kimberly Potter verdict came out, and that was a verdict which I'm not surprised. She was found guilty on all charges. By the way, Potter was the officer that killed Dante Wright with a gun while yelling taser, taser, during a traffic stop. It's all caught on video. Granted that was a horrible mistake on her end, and she shouldn't, be on the force for something like that. But she's human, and, humans make mistakes. A life-costing one, but still, nevertheless, a mistake. I highly doubt when she woke up that morning, she planned to kill somebody during a traffic stop. And I highly doubt that. And it's fair to say that she made a horrible, reckless mistake, but nevertheless, it was unintentional. And now it's costing her her life. And at the same time, Dante Wright, he's seen as a martyr. So, as soon we'll have, statues of him just like George Floyd. But What makes this, all the more worse is that Dante wasn't even a good human being. He was a monster, a violent monster who shot someone in the head, leaving them for dead. For those of you who don't know, look up Caleb Livingston. You'll see images of him. He was the kid shot by Dante Wright in the head at a gas station, and he was left for dead. He was 16 at the time of the shooting, just 16 years old. Now he's paralyzed, and he gets fed from a straw and breathes through a tube. All from the doing of Dante Wright. So where is the cry and justice here? Where was BLM for that? Instead, this is the kind of monster that the left mourns and have always mourned. But, life has a weird way of working things out. I think the real loser in all this is Kimberly Potter. A horrible mistake has now ruined her life forever. A mistake that has caused, a mistake that was caused in the first place by the wrongdoing of Dante. A mistake that could have all been avoided from the beginning had he just listened to their instructions. And if cops are being held accountable to this degree, then it's no wonder that they're leaving the job, in large numbers. I don't blame them. Who would want to do that at this point? But in closing, I just want to say that I just want to make one point. It's crazy how criminals can commit murder intentionally, rape intentionally, and still get out and do less time than someone in a noble profession, but makes one unintentional mistake. Keyword here is unintentional. I guess, that's something to think about. But anyways, thanks for listening. We'll try to do these maybe at least once a week. And until next time, assalamu alaikum. Peace.